Hello everyone, ReeferGil here. In this video, I'm going to talk about how I prepare my system for an extended vacation. In this video, I'm going to go over how I prepare my system for an extended vacation. Extended vacations meaning 2 to 4 weeks at a time. I've had the system for 2 years now, and so I've become very familiar on how to prepare the system for when I'm gone on vacation to minimize any kind of disastrous happenings while I'm gone. Stay tuned toward the end of the video so that you can see what happened to my system while I was gone and what I walked into when I came back. When you're on vacation, that's when things are going to go bad for you. So it is very important when you're gone for an extended period of time to make proper preparations for your system to make sure that nothing goes wrong, or at least it's caught in time before something disastrous happens. Some of the more common issues that happen is your skimmer can go haywire. If you're using an auto feeder, that can malfunction. Unexpected leaks in the system or RODI station, a power outage, equipment may fail such as heaters. Wi-Fi may go down, which would prohibit you from accessing your aquarium controller, in my case an Apex. And the auto top off may run out of water, run your pump dry, and increase your salinity levels. For those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I do leave for an extended period of time. Therefore, I've tried my best to automate my system as much as possible so that I can have control of my system while I'm away, and so I can visually see what's going on with the system while I'm gone. I'm going to break this video down into 3 parts: how to prepare your system before you leave, while you're gone, and when you get back. Preparations prior to me leaving my system for an extended vacation is probably the most important step for me. What I'll do is I'll make sure that all the equipment is working properly. I will calibrate the probes about 6 days before I leave, about a week before I leave. And you want to do that because you don't want to calibrate the probes the day that you're leaving and then the next day you find out that they're off and you can't do anything about it because you're gone. So give yourself about a week's cushion when you do stuff like that, like calibrate probes. I'll have a tank sitter come over and watch over the tank every 5th day. They'll do the regular maintenance, so water changes, the cleaning, making sure that everything's working properly, I have no leaks. And in my case, I have an owner of a local fish store, so I'm fortunate in that respect. He'll come over before I leave on vacation. We'll do a walkthrough of everything, and then when he's gone, he has references. I'll type up instructions for him on how to do the water changes, how to do the feeding, just all the maintenance stuff that goes along with caring for the system. In addition to doing the walkthrough, in addition to typing this up, I'll actually do a private YouTube video for him, and it shows him, visually shows him on how to maintain the system on a weekly basis so that there's no confusion as to what I expect and how I want it to be done. I will set up these Foscam cameras and ensure that they work off my network, because oftentimes you can set up something on your network, it works fine while you're in your house, but as soon as you leave and go to Wi-Fi on a different network, you can't get to it. So make sure that your Apex, any cameras you might be using, work off your network. I'll make sure that the auto feeder has enough food in it to feed the fish while I'm gone. I'll make sure that the Apex unit is set up so it will notify my tank sitter as well as me when things go haywire in the system. And then lastly, I like to try to make it as easy as possible for my tank sitter, so I'll have clean filter socks for him available. I used to have jugs of auto top off already filled up for him and off to the side, but because my auto top off is now manually refilled by itself, neither one of us have to worry about that. I'll have some towels available for him, and just try to make everything as convenient as possible for him and in arm's reach. This is the Apex auto feeder that I use. I intended to use it only while I was gone on vacation, but it works so awesome that I actually have it online 24/7. I rely on this to feed my fish, and then I'll supplement this feeding with other frozen foods for the smaller fish that are in the system. This has been filled up over a month ago, and you can see how much food is still in there. I do not overfeed an abundant amount of food to my fish. In fact, they get very little food twice a day one rotation of this auto feeder, and I do have 3 anthias fish in there that are healthy and doing just fine. So I do rely on this 24/7. The nice thing with having this auto feeder attached to my Apex unit is that I can control my pumps when this auto feeder goes off. So the pumps will shut off, the return pump comes off, and the auto feeder will then feed. Everything stays off for, I think I have it set for 10 minutes, and then everything comes right back online. And I don't have to be home to do it, or I can choose, if I'm away from vacation, just to make sure everything's working properly, I can manually feed. So I can make sure that there's no preset settings for this to go off. I'm away on vacation, I'll angle the Foscam camera up, turn on the auto feeder, watch it feed the fish, make sure that it's getting plenty of food for the system or not too much food for the system, and then I can go back to what I was doing. So it's really nice to have this auto feeder with the Apex unit. You can get something like the Ehime auto feeder that I did a video on. That works great too. You can do multiple settings for that. And then the issue with the pumps, what you could do is have the Ehime auto feeder. I'm just using Ehime as an example. The Ehime auto feeder to turn on at, say, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and at the same time you can have your aquarium controller, if you have one, to turn off the pumps and the return at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So you can do that as well with any other unit. It doesn't have to be this Apex, but the Apex just makes it easier because I can control it manually when I'm. The other important piece of equipment that I have on my system running 24/7 is this battery backup for the Vortech pumps. In the event of a power outage, the pumps, the MP10 and the MP40, will continuously run for, I think, 2 to 3 days, giving that important oxygen exchange to the system while the power is out. So very important piece of equipment for me, especially when I'm gone away from the system and a power outage occurs. 2 important pieces of equipment for me while I'm gone from the system are these 2 Foscam cameras. You can see you can mount them to a standard tripod. I have one camera facing the sump area, and then I have the other camera surveilling the display tank. I used to just run one camera and set it back a little bit further, but because these cameras don't zoom in, you could buy a camera that does if you want to spend the extra money, but these cameras do not. Having it back further was okay because you can see if something major was happening, but you wouldn't be able to notice the subtle changes to the system with the camera that far back. So I brought the camera up closer, and I had to buy a second camera for the bottom one because the closer I got with this one, it wouldn't allow me to pan down far enough to see the sump. So I got a second camera for that, and it's working great. I can manually turn on the stand lights at night through the Apex unit and be able to see everything up close and personal in the sump and in the display tank, which makes things very, very nice. And I'll show you what that looks like on the computer. Here's the Apex Fusion. Most of you already know you can access your remote cameras through Apex Fusion here, like you see. Remember I mentioned to make sure that things work when you're off your own network. I didn't do that in this particular case, and when I got to my place in Montana, I tried to access the cameras through Apex Fusion and it didn't work. I still haven't figured out how to do it, but you can see here I'm on my home network and it's working just fine. Although I wasn't able to access my cameras through Apex Fusion, I was able to still remotely access them through the DYN DNS server that I use. And I'll just show you an example of these Foscam cameras. You can move these cameras up, down, left, or right, and just you can see that I have a better view, a more detailed view of what's going on in the system than I would have if I had just one camera set back further to monitor both the display and the sump area. A fellow YouTuber by the name of Genesis121 came up with the clever idea of using his Skype account by facing his computer in front of the tank and then making a Skype call remotely to view his system. So I thought that was a clever idea. Check him out, his link is down below. I want to make sure that these cameras are placed in a position where I get optimal viewing of the tank and of the sump. So I will put down these blue pieces of tape for my tank sitter. When he comes over, he moves everything and then knows exactly where to put everything back in place. And then this is my waste collector container. I just did a video on it. Check it out if you'd like to see more. But basically what it'll do is collect the skimmate. That's about 6 days worth right there. And it comes down from this hose, which is connected to the skimmer. You can see the skimmer cup is empty because it's all being drained down into that waste collection cup down below. If the skimmer ever goes haywire while I'm on vacation, the skimmate's going to go down this hose and into this cup, fill it up, and then it's going to hit this float switch here, which is connected to my apex. The apex will tell the skimmer to shut off. The apex unit is extremely important for me when I'm gone on extended vacations because I'm able to access all my pieces of equipment and control them remotely. One of the situations that happened this time around was that I got an alert that the temperature in the sump was higher than the temperature in the display tank by like 6 degrees. So right off the bat, that told me that for some reason the return pump has turned off. The heater is located in the sump area, not in the display tank, which is why the display started getting cold and the sump started warming up. I got onto my apex and saw that the return pump was off and the skimmer was off and that the Vortech pumps were off. I don't know to this day what happened, but I was able to get on there and fire everything back up. My tank sitter came over the next day and checked on everything. I thought that the auto feeder somehow got stuck on the on position, dumped all the food in and kept going, which was why all the pumps were turned off, because that's what happens when the auto feeder comes on. Thankfully that was not the case. It was just a mystery as to why everything shut down. Like I said, things will go wrong while you're on vacation. I averted an epic disaster because of this apex unit. When I'm gone on vacation, I'm most certainly enjoying my time away from home, but I am always thinking about my baby, this tank right here. I will check up on the system through the apex at least twice a day, whether it be on my phone or home computer in Montana, and I want to make sure that the water parameters are correct, the temperature in the display, the temperature in the sump, the salinity level, and the pH levels are on par. And I'll also remotely access these cameras at least once or twice a day to make sure that everything looks healthy and nothing is going wrong. It's important that I communicate with the tank sitter on a regular basis, regular meaning every time he comes over on the 5th day, to make sure that everything that I'm viewing on the cameras is on par and that there are no issues. I'll have the tank sitter specially feed the corals their trace elements and specially feed the smaller fish that are in the system, change out the filter socks, clean the glass, and obviously do the water changes. I found that through the 2 years of leaving the system that if I try to skimp out on a water change because I want to save money, obviously I pay this guy to come over and take care of the tank. If I skip a week and have him come over every 10 days instead of every 5 days, I found that I will run into issues doing that kind of stuff because I'm passing up on the regular maintenance, weekly maintenance that this tank is accustomed to, and the biggest maintenance that I do to it is that weekly water change. So I no longer will skimp out on that. I'll pay him the extra money to salvage what I have in the system, because what I have in the system far exceeds what I'm paying him on a weekly basis. And then the last thing he will do while I'm gone and enjoying myself is obviously clean out the waste collection cup. So I come back from Montana. The first thing I do is I make sure that all the equipment is running properly and there are no issues. I'll check all the corals and make sure that the colors look good and that none of them have been knocked over in between rocks, and check all the fish to make sure they all look healthy. In my case, I came home to only 2 clams out of the 3 that I left in the system when I went on vacation. That 3rd clam was a clam that was given to me by a local fish store who thought it was going to die. A year later I had it. It was fully recovered. It looked great. I cannot find it anywhere in the sand bed. I have no idea where it went. The other thing I'll do is I'll go downstairs into the RODI or water making station and make sure everything is going well there. And this is my auto shut off to my RODI unit. This is where the hose would normally connect, and this was popped off with the hose sticking out, and we'll go downstairs to see what that looks like. So this is the rug that was in the garage. It's soaked. I walked up after a 17-hour drive and saw water coming out beyond the garage door, so I immediately knew I had a problem. Opened the garage door, and there was just water everywhere in this garage. I had to go to Home Depot and rent those fans. I had to move everything out of the garage and get it out. This is after a long drive. The last thing I wanted to do, I hear some water spilling over here. I walk over to the RODI unit, and what had happened was this auto top off for some reason failed me, because this popped out of the hole with the hose connected. My finger's the hose, and water was just spilling straight down onto the ground, I'd imagine for a day or two. The kicker is that I have this leak detector set up right below the RO unit. The sensor was right there, and every time I was filling it or replacing one of these cartridges, a little bit of water would spill onto the sensor and it would pop this, make sound, and I would have to come in and correct everything. So after about the third time of me forgetting it was down there and setting it off, I completely took it offline, and now this is what happens. Had I had this online, I would have averted all this hassle of taking all this stuff out, the hassle of going back and forth to Home Depot and paying some 30 bucks for both of those fans per day if I had this piece of equipment that I originally purchased for the RO unit online. So learn from my mistake. I was being careless and used poor judgment by taking this thing offline. I could have just simply picked up the sensor, placed it up here, and then changed out my cartridges without setting it off by accident. But lesson learned, and I wanted to share it with you guys as well. I realized that throughout all my videos in the last 2 years, I've been like Mr. Wilson from Home Improvement. That's how one of my friends in Montana had put it to me. However, I will be at MACNA next week. I will be sporting my ReeferGil t-shirt, so if you see me walking around, please don't hesitate to come up and say hello. I'd really like to meet the people who are subscribed to me and meet the people I am subscribed to. So I'm looking very much forward to that. That'll do it for this video. If you guys have any questions or comments, as always, please leave them down below. If you are new to the channel, I would appreciate that subscription. Thank you very much, and have a great day.